Disclaimer. The views and opinions expressed in this video are those of my own and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of any other person or group of people. This video and the presentation of material therein do not imply the expression of any opinion other than my own. Disclaimer. Copyright disclaimer. Under Section 107 of the Copyright Act of 1976, allowance is made for fair use for the purposes such as criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Fair use is a use permitted by copyright statute that might otherwise be infringing. Non-profit, educational, or personal use tips the balance in favor of fair use.
Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Hello and welcome to this video. I am making this video simply because there have been things going on probably the last year, 18 months. If not long, actually longer, a lot longer. I want to talk about one of those things that I'm going to be talking about is the government at state, local, and federal level in the United States deciding that they know better than what we do as the average citizen on what we should be allowed to read or not read, which bleeds into divisions within fan bases for different books, movies, TV shows, basically media in general. The whole concept of this is what I like and nothing else matters and everything else sucks. This is not something that I am a fan of. I am a live and let live type person. I believe that people generally are smart enough to make decent choices as far as literature and entertainment goes. I, however, believe there are things that I do not necessarily agree with or like, but should be allowed to be presented in a media format. I am mainly going to be sticking to literary context because book bannings and book censorship are some of the biggest areas of concern for me. The fact that my local library had a display in June of 2022 that the city government did not approve of. Therefore, they voted to defund the library and privatize it. That's never a good thing for the common man, never a good thing for the common person, because under the privatization of the library, the people that run the library for profit are going to pick and choose what you get to read, what you get to see, what you get to ingest. It is troubling because their literature, it's books. And the whole nonsense of what about the kids, that is a straw man at its best, and it falls apart if the parents are held accountable for their child's action. And that's basically what's happening. Is parents don't want to be held responsible, don't want to be parents, don't want to do parenting things. Therefore, we have this reliance on Big Brother to tell us what's wrong and right. What we should look at, what we should read, what we should watch on television, all of that equates to basically Big Brother. Orwell, 1984. Read it. If you've read it, read it again. It is, if you control the information people consume, you can control the people. If you control the meanings of the words in the media that people consume, you got more control on the people. And that's what is going on. States like Florida, Texas, Louisiana, Georgia, Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, so on and so forth, ad nauseam, have decided they are Big Brother. They've decided that you, the average person, are too stupid to think for yourself. And that's what it comes down to. It comes down to they believe, or want you to believe, you're too stupid to think for yourself. If something is publicly funded and is left that way, you have a greater freedom of information. Now, am I saying that everything in print and everything that people consume is good, great, and worth it? No. What I am saying is it's not the government's job to tell you what is not worth reading. If you don't like a particular subject, a particular genre, don't read it. Don't embrace it. Don't watch it. Don't listen to it. It's real simple. Censorship is a tool of a dictator. Whether it's a communist dictator, a fascist dictator, or whatever, it is a tool. Censorship is their tool. It is one of their strongest tools. It is a tool that they use to tell you how to think, why to think, what to think. And something that is even more insidious than a total ban or total censorship is when they go in and rewrite something. Abridged books, or they tell you they're cutting down, they're changing things to be more politically correct, to be more inclusive. You can't do that. You have authors such as H.P. Lovecraft, which he was a very deplorable human being. In his personal life, he was a racist, a homophobe, a xenophobe. Basically, if there's a phobia, H.P. Lovecraft was probably one of those. He did add and contribute to American literacy. Call of Cthulhu, At the Mountains of Madness, and things like that are all worthwhile endeavors that he did that added to the tapestry of American literacy and American literature. Despite, especially by today's standards, as deplorable of a human being as he was, you have to give him credit for what he did, what he expressed, how he expressed it. Another author, J.K. Rowling, as things became more and more apparent to her stance on transgender people became more and more public, and her phobias and her dislikes and her hatreds emerged. Yes, she, in my opinion, is a very deplorable human being. However, her Harry Potter books did leave a mark in the tapestry of literature. For good or for bad, that's for you, the individual, to make that decision. If you want to embrace Harry Potter, embrace him. If you don't. It's you. It's your money, your time, things that you can embrace or choose not to embrace. Another deplorable author, a man by the name of Ian Fleming. Ian Fleming gave us the original James Bond novels. And if you actually read James Bond novels written by Ian Fleming, they're extremely sexist, extremely misogynistic, extremely homophobic. But yet, out of those novels, we've got some of the most classic American movies ever made. Goldfinger, Spy Who Loved Me, From Russia with Love, Man with the Golden Gun. All of these are very good movies that they came from, they're birthed from this mind, this person. And these books are a part of the American tapestry of literature. If you choose to read them, read them. If you choose not to read them, don't. Though I personally would recommend probably Ian Fleming's most, in my opinion, deplorable book, Goldfinger, which is everything that is not tolerated in today's society is in that novel. And if you oppose that, this, in my opinion, once again, in my opinion, you should read this novel simply to understand the mindset. Ian Fleming was a scrub secretary. Basically, if you're familiar with James Bond at all, the character of James Bond's secretary, Moneypenny, in essence, is Ian Fleming. Ian Fleming worked for a secret agent 007 type figure, a man by the name of Christopher Lee. Christopher Lee, after he got bored pretty much with hunting down Nazi criminals after the Second World War, helped form and train the Mossad, and 900 other things that this man did for the freedom of the English people and Western culture as a whole, became an actor. He was in movies such as the Raquel Welch, Michael York, Three Musketeers. He was in Lord of the Rings, the Steve Jackson Lord of the Rings movies. He played Saruman. And this is what James Bond is based on. A man Christopher Lee, who was very open about his homosexuality, was the inspiration for the literary James Bond, who is a very, very vile human being. It's kind of insane when you look at it. And this brings me to another thing that kind of irritates me, gets under my skin. is people, I have different tastes than, say, my wife or my friends or my sister-in-law, what have you. That is because I am not them. I love science fiction. I like fantasy. I really enjoy horror. I like technical magazines, technical manuals, stuff like that. But the stuff that I don't like, say, Harlequin romance novels, they should be allowed to exist. I do not care for them, but there are those people who do. Those people who enjoy that kind of literature should be allowed to embrace it. Another example, I am a real hardcore science fiction lover. I love Heinlein, Philip K. Dick, Isaac Asimov, Frank Herbert, all wonderful authors. I love the novelizations of movies like Alien. I love novelizations of TV shows like Battlestar Galactica, Doctor Who, the novelizations that spun out of Star Wars, Star Trek, what have you. That is what I enjoy. Now, when you get into fantasy, I like it. But given a choice between a science fiction novel and a fantasy novel, I am going to go with the science fiction novel first every time. However, do I think that fantasy is bad? No, I don't. It is not bad. It is simply something I don't like as much as science fiction. And we need to develop this tolerance for people's choices. There are some historical fencing manuals that I really enjoy reading, among other things. But at the end of the day, I am a science fiction fan. I enjoy science fiction. I love science fiction. And there are people out there that don't. There are people out there that feel toward science fiction the way I feel toward fantasy. A really good friend of mine, somebody I've known for way more years than I haven't, will, the last time we spoke about such things, he will read fantasy, loves fantasy. He's probably read Hobbit, Lord of the Rings as many times as I have read Stephen King's Dark Tower series, which is a bunch because I read it about every 12 to 18 months. He's currently, at time that I'm filming this, is rereading the Silmarillion. I can't pronounce it. My tongue doesn't want to work. But it is a book by J.R.R. Tolkien, and it is related to the Middle Earth universe that Tolkien created. Not something I'm going to go out of my way to read. I enjoy Tolkien's writing. He's a very good author, very articulate, but I am more of laser blasters and spaceships than I am elves, orcs, and dragons. That's a personal thing, and we need in our society and our culture to allow for this, to give this lenience to people, not to judge people. If somebody is sitting reading a book that you don't care for by an author or genre or whatever, leave them be. Don't judge them. Simply because you don't like it and or you do not enjoy it doesn't mean anything. It just simply means There's differences, and that is one of the biggest things in this country we need to get back to, that people are different. We need this belief that people are going to be different. People are going to have different ideas. People are going to have different viewpoints, whether it's culturally, intellectually, people's views on sexually charged content and stuff like that. Everyone's going to be different. The problem is you'll get somebody, for whatever reason, whether it's mental deficiency, zealotous to a cause or whatever, will read a piece of literature and act out. This is part of the dangers of living in a free society. We cannot and should not penalize the majority for the acts of a minority group that came out bad. That's of a small sector of human beings, I should say. I mean, and you can apply this to anything. Somebody can read Stranger in a Strange Land by Heinlein, who, for whatever reason, decides to do something stupid or illegal. Doesn't mean the book's bad. It means that book simply was there. It contributed, but it contributed to somebody that already was going to do something. That just happened to be the trigger. And it's, can't ban the book simply because of what a scattered handful of people do. Let's face it, look at all of the assassins in history, or 20th century I should say, Sirhan, Lee Harvey Oswald, and people like that. How many of these people, when their homes were searched, a copy of Catcher in the Rye was found? Does that make Catcher in the Rye a bad book? No. It just simply means that the people who ingested that information, that knowledge, were not going to, regardless of what book they read or what media they ingested, were going to do something stupid. They were going to do something illegal that just happened to be there. It just happened to be, and you can't ban or censor that book simply because of that person's views, that person's thing, because look at how many other thousands, if not millions of people have read that book and not done anything stupid. And it all falls back on itself. It falls back onto parenting. It falls back onto societal norms. Reaching out, not cutting people off, going, oh, this person looks this way, or their skin color's this way, or their sexual orientation this way, so we're going to exclude them. Can't do that. That is more of a factor of people doing stupid stuff than it is if you embrace them and include them. Inclusivity. It is just one of those things that we have to deal with in America. You need the freedom of the information. Let it flow. It is often said that free speech is only free speech if you tolerate the things you don't agree with. And that is something I was taught early in my life, and something to this day that I still believe in. because somebody favors, say, Stephen King or V.C. Andrews or Peter Straub, hey, you know, let them go for it. Let them read it. Those books in and of themselves are not dangerous. I have yet to have any of my books get up off their bookshelf and pose a threat to anybody. It is simply part of who and what we are. There are going to be bad things. There are going to be people doing stupid things. And people don't want to hold other people accountable, so they scapegoat media, literature. You know, they scapegoat other things than facing the fact that our society is lacking and we need to change our society to bring these people into the fold and allow them to learn and become better people, to enjoy and realize how their thinking may not be normal, or may not be, when I say normal, I mean the status quo. Because anyone who's known me for more than about 5 minutes will understand I am far from normal. But out of the status quo, you have societal obligations. And when you force people, you keep victimizing people, you keep punishing people, you keep othering people, that pushes them into a corner, and at some point they're going to come out of that corner and they're going to come out swinging. And it is us as a society that is responsible for it. It's not the literature, it's not the media, it's just a fact. It's a fact of othering, for kicking down, for making people feel less than what they really are. That is one of the major problems in America right now. Until we address that and do what we can to get these people out of these corners and get them into the crowd and accept them for who and what they are, instead of trying to force them to conform to what we believe or how we think of things. That's just a few thoughts from my little mangled, twisted little head. Like I said, these are all my opinions, my thoughts. So, and until next time, peace.